Hello everybody, my name is Liesi. I am a singer from Vienna, Austria, and I also study here in Vienna at the MDW. Got my MDW sweater on for you today. I study voice pedagogy, music pedagogy, and I've just started my master's in historical performance practice this fall, and it's very, very interesting. As a singer, I do a lot of contemporary music, and I really like the dichotomy of doing very old music and very modern music. I'm also a conductor, choir conductor, and I've got a couple choirs that I regularly conduct here in Vienna. My response. Questions about representation of marginalized people are quite hard to answer, especially considering I am a white person living in a society which provides me with many privileges I'm aware of, and probably a bunch I am not aware of. I couldn't also possibly speak for every white person or woman, so in general, I find the discourse around these subjects should always first and foremost invite the varied voices and opinions of those depicted and or harmed by the depictions. Which is why I found the interview with the black choreographer Bintu Dembele especially eye-opening and humbling. When she spoke about the word race being removed from the Constitution in 2018 and talked about how black people focusing on representation of black people are being called racist, I tried to put myself in her shoes and thought of similar discussions I'd had as a woman, just with racist being replaced by sexist. Her quote, "This denial leads to invisibility for artists, colonized communities, and large swathes of society," haunts me deeply. The original intention of the governmental decision is, for me, irrelevant here. It clearly hurt this female artist. Speaking for myself, I have often found that the adage rings true: those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. There are a couple ways of saying that quote. This is the one I chose, but there are a couple different versions, but that's the gist of it. Looking at recent news and some political ideologies around the world, it is clear that some lessons have not been learned. There are people who idolize the Nazi regime, for example, and I believe that is in part furthered by information about certain subjects being censored and or forbidden. Please don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying we should distribute copies of Mein Kampf, but there is a certain truth that the forbidden can be alluring and even thrilling. Most conspiracy theories reel their followers in by telling them about supposedly hidden or suppressed information, which serves to further undermine reputable news sources, which are already being disrupted by algorithms seeking the most salacious headlines, which will therefore create the most clicks and attention. So to get back to the point, simply banning operas from the repertoire seems short-sighted in my opinion. There are, as has been demonstrated in the reading and the material we've been shown, ways to look at the attitudes and customs of previous generations that question the status quo, make the audience think about their own beliefs and ideas, and critically engage with old materials. That makes the discussion possible as to why we should change certain political policies or societal ideologies. We also haven't banned old movies like Birth of a Nation, but there have been a lot of discussions to articulate what about the depictions in this movie are bad, while still praising the film's technological achievements. We can do the same for operas like The Magic Flute, praising some aspects while condemning others. Changing lines, costumes, adding or subtracting dialogue, all should be fair game in my opinion, not least because we know artists themselves often change their works according to audience reactions, tastes, etc. There are often so many versions from the lifetime of composers, authors of their works where they just went hard on their own creations and just made them completely different, and it was all okay. So death of the author and all that, yeah. Another quote from the second article on the Magic Flute comes to mind. Acknowledging his failings doesn't detract from Mozart's genius, but rather has the potential to add immeasurably to our understanding of what makes him so remarkable. Maybe controversial, I personally didn't find any depictions offensive. Even the Pierre Audi production. It looks like it purposely made Monostatos and the other slaves overt caricatures of what Mozart might have thought black people looked like. It is so over the top that, in my opinion, it comes around to making fun of Mozart or Schikaneder, his librettist's whole concept for the character. Caveat, not having watched the entire production, Papageno looks like a stoner with dreadlocks. The three ladies like Bavarian hunters. That it all seems so over the top that in context I'd rate the whole staging as a caricature. So maybe I'd feel differently if the rest of the cast were clad more sensibly. I don't know. I am in general of the opinion that it is worthwhile to examine and re-examine operas and plays with a long legacy of performance in our society. Asking questions like the following is important. Why is this still popular? Why do people still pay money to see this? What worth does the public attribute to this performance? My favorite example is we watch Romeo and Juliet, even though we know the ending. The play even starts with telling you about the lovers dying at the end. Why do we continue to watch and rewatch these stories? Well, there is, of course, a comfort in familiarity. When we've heard music before, when we know a joke's point, but still long to see the execution, when we love to watch a scene unfold live in front of our eyes and drink in the details of the realization, there is immense power in that. By taking the familiar, the popular, the well-known, we as artists have many opportunities to subvert expectations, to fulfill expectations, but later or sooner than expected, to deny viewers the satisfaction of a happy end. It is important to write and perform new pieces. As somebody who does lots of modern music, I know the power it can have over an audience. Still, there is a different power in the familiar. I remember sitting in Die Entführung aus dem Serail here in Vienna. I wrote about it in one of the assignments, where at the end, the Bassa Selim, he suddenly breaks character near the end and gets angry about the depictions. He starts talking as himself, as the actor who himself was Turkish-German, and suddenly broke out about these depictions, how they reflect on him, and suddenly all the characters around him got nervous and also started breaking characters, and the singers tried to appease him and were like, come on, let's finish this, don't make drama. And I just love that so much. So they were like breaking character, and near the end, and he was getting angry about this tried conclusion of the story, everything going back to normal, happy end. And next to me, there was an older couple who were almost gasping, and I heard them saying, "Why can't they leave the nice old operas alone? What has Mozart done to these people?" And I was thinking just maybe this performance could be a seed for them that grows into further thinking. They weren't malicious, but they were evidently looking for a nice evening of escapism, and being confronted by the problematic aspects of the opera might have given them pause. I don't think they would have willingly chosen a performance like this, and maybe as artists, it is our job to provide people with the familiar while still giving it a twist. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.